A warm welcome back to Globetrotting. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Still trying to get the channel to 100,000 and maybe at some point that will become a reality. The Airbus A380 is the world's largest passenger plane and United Airlines is among the world's largest airlines. However, this aircraft and airline combination never resulted in the major US carrier purchasing the plane for its international operations or even high-capacity domestic routes. United's decision not to order the A380 highlights a broader trend that we saw across the country for those who didn't favour the A380 driven by their business model. However, was this the right decision for United not to order the aircraft, and are there maybe some parallels that we are currently seeing between larger aircraft that are more efficient nowadays as well? When the A380 launched, it was marketed primarily as a solution for airlines operating in highly congested corridors. The capacity levels of the A380 were unrivaled and meant airlines with major international hubs could operate to other global cities, major ones as well, without requiring as many daily flights. Ultimately, this would benefit slot-constrained airports, which at the time of the A380's introduction was a hotly talked about topic for some companies. Emirates, for example, adopted the A380 as a cornerstone of its business model and leveraged this aircraft to develop itself as an airline and also its home city of Dubai into a global powerhouse for aviation, tourism, and trade. However, the aircraft size and operational requirements came with some pretty hefty trade-offs. Its immense capacity necessitated a concentration of passengers that would only filter through certain airports and markets. Additionally, the quad-engine design meant higher fuel consumption and operating costs than, say, your smaller twin-engine wide-bodies, and this was a very trade-off that some airlines were just unwilling to make, and probably a key catalyst for why the aircraft underperformed commercially for many reasons. I'll always head back to the number one reason being that the A380 is only going to work with so many airlines, and if those so many airlines have a trade-off they're unwilling to make, well, your pool of airlines that are truly going to commit to it is going to reduce. These airlines being unwilling to make the investment because of the associated risks was valid. You've even got to consider that for some that purchased the plane, they believe in the end the A380 just didn't work out. United Airlines operates a multi-hub system that is spread right across the United States. These hubs can range from Chicago, Newark, Houston, San Francisco, and more alike. We're really unlike Emirates or Singapore Airlines, which funnel their passengers through a single hub. United's model basically distributes them through multiple. This strategy does prioritize two key things over one element, that is frequency and flexibility over capacity, allowing United to basically leverage the capabilities of multiple aircraft to meet the levels of demand and therefore benefit its network and customers rather than, say, just consolidating all its demand from one hub of San Francisco. The A380, which is designed for high capacity, high density routes, didn't align with this approach at any point for United Airlines, and deploying such a large aircraft would have required consistent demand between two city pairings, such as New York and London, which, true, is a major in-demand plane. But even on that market, United knew it could achieve something better with a more versatile aircraft that would go on to benefit its greater. It would also reduce complexities, provide them with greater economics, and more. By operating these smaller planes in relative terms to the A380, the airline could swap around the usage of these planes and offer greater connectivity from each of its hubs across the United States to cities worldwide, whereas the A380 would restrict much of what I'm talking about. On top of that, when considering the operational requirements, such as airport infrastructure and longer turnaround times, the added complexity and costs that United likely were going to incur was deemed unnecessary, and it's not hard to see why. While the A380 does fly into cities across the United States, if a US company actually adopted the aircraft, even further infrastructure would need to occur, costing money and taking up valuable resources that could be applied elsewhere. United's decision not to order the A380, though, was not isolated just to them in their region. It did represent a broader trend across the United States. American Airlines and Delta, similar to United, avoided the A380, opting for more versatile planes that would fit their network. The US sector of the industry faces colossal competition on a daily basis, and much of this focus is on point-to-point travel rather than the hub-and-spoke model. If anything, if one of these major three airlines looked to adopt a hub-and-spoke model, they would be probably at a disadvantage, as they would be concentrated on just one location for international travel, whereas their counterparts would have international connectivity options scattered right across the country. While international airlines like Emirates, I'll reiterate, thrive on funneling passengers through a single hub, US airlines have leveraged their networks to connect smaller cities, major international gateways. This model reduces the reliance on a plane such as the A380, which played an important role in why it didn't opt for such a plane. Now, onto the more modern planes that are available, and I'll focus on the 777X, because the decision to bypass the A380 is not isolated in its overall thinking regarding, say, efficient, high-capacity planes. Some may argue that while the A380 wasn't great, this may be because it wasn't efficient, and when a larger plane comes around that's more efficient, it would make sense for them. Well, ultimately, United's stance on high-capacity airliners, such as the upcoming 777X, is still pretty much the same, and it aligns with their desire not to fly the 380. The 777X does offer significant improvements in fuel efficiency, but it still represents at its very core a high-capacity hub-orientated solution. Instead, United has focused on modernizing its fleet with aircraft like the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. I'm sure we could sit here for another 20 minutes and discuss why the 787 Dreamliner has been so pivotal to the success at United Airlines in recent years, and while looking into the coming decades, that is only expected to continue. It offers them just so much flexibility and efficiency for their network. Essentially, United can utilize 3 variants of the Dreamliner, but differing types of missions, and interchange these across the short-haul, medium, and long-haul network. Offer different cabin products, and all the while streamlining from a business resource standpoint. United's decision to not move ahead with the Airbus A380 will always be the right one, and while I know deep down, probably all would have loved to have seen the Super Jumbo flying within the United States, the A380 certainly struggled to achieve widespread adoption, and this was certainly a reason why it was discontinued in 2021 due to dwindling orders. For United, avoiding the A380 allowed it to be a leaner and more adaptable company, and they've utilised successfully planes such as the 787 to serve their long-haul routes instead, and they've done well by doing this. While the A380 is, yes, considered a great aircraft, it has only worked with ever so specific airlines, and United executives, alongside analysts, believe that the pair would have never really quite been a perfect match, and that is in essence why United hasn't flown the A380, and likewise why it has a very similar stance on the Boeing 777X. Fascinating, to say the least, but it's a model that has proven to work for them, and they're going to continue with that very model until something needs radically changing. Thanks a lot for tuning into this video here on Globetrotting. If you have any thoughts, well, you know the best place to drop it is down below in the comments. Please take care, be safe, and I'll see you in a couple of days for your latest industry analysis.